All right.
Happy holidays. Hope everybody's staying warm.
What's good, Trey?
Well, I
It's
live in
pretty
California,
cold
so
here.
it's
What's
hard to
going
be
on,
cold
man?
where I am.
Oh, well, that's probably a bonus about living there. I'm in South Georgia, and it shouldn't be cold here, but it is.
Hmm.
But anyway, I can't. Okay, let me see this thing. I want to ask a question about the Big Bang, and I'm sure you guys can answer it for me. Okay,
Try.
so we I believe it's the universe started from. Okay, so what condensed into the singularity to create the Big Bang?
Well, we don't know what made the Big Bang happen.
But we know it happened.
Yeah, the Big Bang is just what the universe does. It's still banging.
Hmm. Pretty banging place, if you ask me.
Oh yeah.
Um, so we know that this event that happened condensed and expanded, or contracted and then expanded at such a rate that it created 3D time and space, or space itself. So for there to be something to create said Big Bang, there had to have been space prior to the energy existing in the state of existing. So
well,
what could
well,
have been
well,
that? Like,
the universe is uh, space, time, and matter. So I don't really think we have to say that one of those things had to be in place before anything else could be there. The whole thing is the universe. So it all, as it began to expand, all the energy in space time itself begins to exist.
To ask the
but
question what happened before the Big Bang is like asking where is the edge to a sphere?
Yeah, like we don't know. It could be that um like it could be that eventually this universe will stop expanding and collapse, and then once everything in the universe collapses to a certain point, it starts expanding again, it rebounds. But we don't know that that's what happened uh to make this universe begin to exist. We just don't know.
we do know that it has to have a starting point, because we could see um, galaxies, and I use quotations because I don't know if they're galaxies, but we can see that, okay, they're moving away from us, but we're moving away from them at the speed of light. Everything, it's isotropic, and it's homogeneous, right? That means that it's the same everywhere you look, and it doesn't have a preference of direction for creation.
Right.
The only other thing that's like that is the ocean. The ocean too is isotropic and homogeneous. So we can see that those two things are similar in effect. We also can see, and you could look this up, that um, ocean eddies, which an eddy is something that when it hits a solid point, it creates a whirling effect or a reverse direction of spin on a, say, like a water current or something like that. So we could see these eddies have the exact same mathematical principles as black holes. So
What?
yeah, you can look at eddies in the ocean are completely identical mathematically to black holes.
How so?
You'll have to look it up, man. I'm saying everything about it is because A, nothing escapes from it. B, it goes all
Things
the
escape
way.
from eddies.
I don't make these. I don't make this up. I'm not making this up. Well, see, this is why I go into the have this black hole
Like
cosmology
the
thing
the
now.
only way an eddy can exist is for a constant flow of water, which means it's
Right,
constantly being replenished with water. So like
right.
literally energy goes in, and energy and matter go in and out.
Hmm.
Well, so that's
That's
not
it's
that's not what black holes are like. Nothing. I mean,
yes.
information
That's
does escape from black holes because of Hawking radiation, but not in the same way. It certainly isn't the same mathematical model.
the perturbations that are created. I believe they're called. I can't think of the name of the waves, But these same waves are used to determine where planets and solar systems are in the radio and infrared spectrum as well in their searches through the galaxy. So what they're seeing is they'll see these same effects of these certain types of gravity waves in the celestial sphere, and they determine the same way that they find eddies is the same way that they find black holes. And these black holes also, these eddies, which do reach all the way down to these thermal vents, which actually, if you didn't know, do exhibit and expel microwaves. The microwave oven and Teflon was actually developed by NASA when they were researching eddies in the 1950s.
What is a microwave?
A microwave is an excited form of electromagnetic energy that carries energy with it while it goes. It is also one of the, it's not the most powerful or most powerful electromagnetic waves. It's one of the weakest.
So what is electromagnetic waves?
Electromagnetic waves are the propagation of the.
No. What is another name? No, hold on. What is another name for magnetic waves?
What do you mean another name? Like just electromagnetic waves?
Specifically, like we could.
I don't understand the question.
The answer is light.
That's what I think the answer is.
Yes, it's light.
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah, light. Yeah. So the excitation of the electromagnetic spectrum. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're saying eddy currents, or sorry, not eddy currents, an eddy and black holes are mathematically the same, but there's a massive issue there. Black holes require an insane amount of mass to be created. These eddies, I'm assuming that it's not the same. Not even assuming. I'm almost positive.
No,
look at
definitely not
any
the same.
any type of ocean, any great expanse is part of the ocean.
What?
Such as
look it up.
So give an example of something that's not the ocean that's part of the ocean.
Space.
What? Okay, so what does that mean though?
I don't know. You'll have to look into it.
Of salty water, and
right.
So what part about that tells us that space is part of that?
The Navy.
No. Something about
Admiral
space.
James S. Tangredi. You can look up his citation on the the future of space travel, which is handled by the Navy because it's in space. And you could look this article up right now. Yeah.
No.
Tangredi. Tangredi.
No,
so look it up.
We have a space
you
agency.
Can't just say,
yeah, we have space agencies.
It's a space agency that started as a deep sea research agency.
But again, what is that? How does that mean space is the ocean?
Yeah,
I didn't say it. The naval commander said it in January of 2001 or 1999, actually.
Right, but I asked you. You said everything.
I provided citations, and I'm saying you have to look it up now. So.
Okay, but I asked you, what is an extension of the ocean or something like that, and you said space.
I said space.
That's you telling me that, and now you're just saying,
I'm just telling you what the space agency says.
And what did they say?
They said that space is not metaphorically an ocean. It is literally the ocean. Any space between
no, they didn't.
But the ocean.
Yes, they do. Okay, so let me explain this to you. So space and time, or the ocean itself, goes on a magnitude of literally 7 figures. So based on time frames. So the deeper you go in the ocean, the more differently time works. See?
Hold on, Trey.
That's not true.
I'm not lying.
James Cameron went to the bottom of the ocean and he didn't come up older or younger or anything like that.
I didn't say he came up older or younger. I said time is different. It can be up to magnitude.
That's what would happen if you went somewhere where time worked different.
Of course, but why would it work different? Would eddies?
Okay, James.
Do these eddies?
Just
do
really
these
quick,
eddies bend
really
time?
Time out. No. I don't want to talk about eddies. James, like, people have been very deep into the ocean, James Cameron included, and
Well,
he had he had radio communications with people up at the surface. I don't know if he had communication the entire
do you know
time.
anything about Einstein and relativity? Because
No,
you know why
don't
we can't
change the
use.
subject. He was in radio communication with people up at the surface. If time was
I'm
going
sure he
different,
lost
they
radio
would hear
communication, and that
him.
was one of the reasons they freaked out was because his entire submersible failed. Like his life
No,
support
it
system
didn't.
failed.
He
So don't
came up
say
to
that
the
he had radio.
surface.
Don't say yeah, and nothing worked on his vessel. Like
No,
it all
everything
shut
worked,
down.
or he would have been
No, it
killed to
didn't.
Yeah, he
death.
would have never
No, it
made it
did
back
not.
up if it
You're
didn't
you're
work.
lying. You're
I'm not.
lying. I know you're lying
If
because I just read the
everything
story.
failed, he would
Pull,
have been
pull it up.
killed to death.
Pull it up and read it. Then you
I've
you,
seen the
you
documentary,
disingenuous person.
and I
You're a
know that
liar.
one of his claw things stopped working
No,
because I watched the documentary.
the entire submersible failed,
Right.
and he had to come up.
Trey, if
He
the
lost
entire
radio control.
submersible failed, he would have never been able to come back up to the surface.
Oh well, maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't
Oh,
even
he's
go
still
You
down.
don't
down there?
think
Maybe he
James
went to
Cameron
the
is
moon.
alive?
So James
Avatar
Cameron is
2
dead?
is in theaters right now, directed by him. He went
I'm
to
not
the bottom
talking.
of the ocean
He went to the
many
bottom of the
years
ocean
ago.
like Neil Armstrong went to the moon.
Okay, so now you're saying he didn't go to the bottom of the ocean, but you're
Yeah,
saying
I'm
he
saying he
did go
didn't.
to the bottom of the ocean and his submarine failed and he's dead in the
Yeah,
bottom
he
of the
didn't make
ocean.
it to the bottom.
So
He did not make it to the
this
bottom.
is
You're saying he went to the bottom
Schrodinger's
of the
James
ocean.
Cameron,
Do you know how deep
who
the
both
ocean is?
went there and didn't go there and both died and
Really?
didn't
So
die.
let me
Schrodinger's
ask you a
James
question.
Cameron. This is Schrodinger's submarine.
Don't change the subject.
I
You
didn't change the subject. I'm
Don't change the
telling you
subject.
what you're telling us.
No, I'm telling you that he didn't go to the bottom. I'm also telling you that his submersible failed before he reached the bottom. That's what I'm telling you. If you can't follow,
No, you're not.
yes,
That's
I
not
am.
what
That's
you
exactly what I
said.
said. That's exactly what I said.
Ugh.
That's
And
exactly what I said. I said he didn't make it to the bottom, and his submersible failed. So the burden of proof rests on you to disprove what I said.
Well, he's alive, and we have the submarine. There we go.
Well, do we have the submarine? Because I haven't seen you pull up the first article talking about a submarine, talking about James Cameron's adventure to the quote unquote
Trey,
bottom
he made a
ocean.
fucking movie.
It's
You
a
understand?
film.
They made a movie. Did you hear what you just said? They made a what?
Did. He made the movie. Do you understand that
Okay.
he still exists?
I'm not
went
saying
in
he's
the water,
dead.
and it came back up
He went in the water. How deep in the water?
all the way to the bottom of the Mariana
No, he
Trench.
didn't. No,
Yes,
he did
he
not.
did. There's videos
No,
of
he
him
didn't.
making it to the bottom. What the
It's
fuck are you
not the
talking
bottom.
about?
Okay, Trey.
It's literally not the bottom.
Trey.
If we,
Even
we've
if,
only explored 3% of the ocean, but we found the bottom. Yeah. Okay.
well, not that. Okay. Even if what you're saying is true, that he didn't go to the bottom, he still went in a. Let's just say they faked it. He went in a submarine and just went to some random place that wasn't very deep. Okay. Even if what you're saying about him going to the bottom of the Mariana Trench isn't true, you're still claiming that the submarine went in the water, failed, the whole thing failed, which means it couldn't have come back up. But that's not true, because even if they faked it, the submarine still came up because he's still alive.
Plus, can we get to the original point? How the fuck does this have anything to do with the claim that the ocean is space?
I don't know.
well, Trey, I pulled up what you're talking about. When they say that thing where they say space is an ocean, and I'm not speaking metaphorically, they also are talking about how they want to take an approach with naval philosophy to space, and make mentions to how they were right on, like they hit the nail on the head when they made Star Wars ran by a naval officer or by the Navy. That's all they were talking about, saying that they wanted.
No,
to
it wasn't Star Wars. It was Star Trek. But yeah.
I said Star Trek.
No, you said Star Wars.
Oh, well, either way. But that's all it was referring to. They're talking about taking a naval philosophy towards spacefaring and space.
I'm going to read it just in case anybody else, because you left out the severely important part about it literally being the ocean. Because any great expanse is part
You
of
know
the
what
ocean.
literally means?
Trey,
The ocean is literally salt water. So if space is literally the ocean, it has to be salt water.
Isn't there salt water everywhere?
No.
No, salt can't
Really?
evaporate.
No, of course it can't, but it can be found everywhere.
Well,
Where's
do you
the
know what
saltiest
literally
place on Earth?
means?
Do you know what literally means? When I
Yes.
say Antarctica is literally the saltiest place on Earth?
Ice. So, how do I say this? Ions get pushed out when ice forms. So, Antarctica, the waters around Antarctica may have the highest salinity content. I don't know if they do. I'm pretty sure the
The,
Mediterranean has a higher salt concentration than the waters around Antarctica. But
it
like
doesn't.
ice forces out the salt the salt ions in it when it forms. So like the snow and ice on Antarctica
Cation.
is not salty. But if I
You
said
mean
this is
cation.
literally blue, that would be incorrect because it's not blue. Like literally means that there's no ambiguity there. So if you say the space is literally an ocean,
It's
what
literally an
is
ocean.
an ocean? It's a mass of salt water. That means space has to be that if it literally is that.
It is that.
How do you know
How
that?
else are you? How else are you going to get funding for something? You make up something, right? So if we know for a fact that space doesn't exist, but you need the funding for space, you're
What?
going to create
But
all
you
this
said
stuff.
space is the ocean.
It is the ocean, but of
Okay,
course
how
you
do you
can
know that?
literally salt. What do you think the salt content of space would be? How much salt do you think there is in
Roughly
space?
0.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yes.
0%.
Yes.
If you're gonna claim that it's something other than that, then I'm gonna need a measurement or like some like a sample.
And that's going to be kind of hard for the entire
Do you
universe.
realize that? Do you realize that they find distant stars by using sodium, like to detect? Like, are you even serious right now?
Are you
The
serious?
so
Because what you just said is a sentence fragment, and so I did. You didn't actually make a claim.
No, I'm saying okay. You've heard of the Solo mission, right?
No.
You mean the Soho?
No, the Solo.
The SOHO?
SOLO.
Please enlighten us. Let's hear about it.
Trey, they don't
Study,
use sodium to
examine
look for
sodium
stars.
regulation in space. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do.
Well, Trey, stars emit light. What use could the element sodium possibly be when searching for objects that literally are beacons unto themselves?
Hmm.
Unless you're claiming spectroscopy requires sodium.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Stars are almost entirely helium with some or hydrogen with some
Right.
helium. Ugh. So
Salt is literally one of the major things that is created when sodium is one of the
No.
main things that is created when a star explodes, and
it's
also
it's not.
yeah,
What do you mean?
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
it's not.
no,
Correct, it's not. Okay.
I'm
So
saying it
anyways,
is. Oh, check
okay,
this out. The
but it's
moon is
not.
Trey, do you know
check this
how
out.
stars work? Do you know
X-rays of
how
the
nuclear
moon
fusion
reveal a
works?
new lunar map in sodium.
No,
They have
you
an
don't.
entire map
You
of
don't.
sodium
No.
calcium exchange in fuzzy space. Chandrayaan-2 orbiter mapped the abundance of sodium on planetary bodies. Which different planetary bodies? Which I mean, we know that thing didn't ever launch.
Well, planetary
Okay.
bodies aren't
So
stars.
Okay, let's see what else we got.
Can we just stick with the claim that space is literally the ocean and try I'm trying to get an explanation for that statement out of you.
The surface of Europa is mostly sodium chloride.
No, it's mostly ice.
No, it's sodium chloride, frozen
No, it's
ice.
not. It's not. No, it's
So
water ice.
so you honestly don't know anything about cosmology.
No, I
No, you
do.
literally don't.
Trey,
literally don't. I'm
you know
literally.
That's a
negative
lot of
things
projection
because
coming from you, Trey.
the things you're claiming aren't true. You know negative things about space.
Okay, really.
Yes.
Yeah, really.
I'm gonna-
Yes, Europa is the surface is water ice. There are other things. Those brown streaks are off the top of my head. I don't know what causes that coloration. I don't remember. But
They have methane lakes.
the vast majority of that, like it's like virtually, those are just what do you call it? Trace elements within it, right? The whole thing is just ice with some of those other things on it,
Oh,
right?
what do you think?
I was thinking of Ganymede. Europa's, yeah, mainly water
What do you
ice.
think causes? What do you think causes Mercury's tail? What do you think causes like planets
Tails.
and
Doesn't
stuff their
Mercury have
tails?
the least
Sodium
amount of tilt?
tails? You never heard of a sodium tail?
Oh, you said sodium tail. Trey, I've never heard of most things. That's true for everybody. Most people don't know most things. Or everybody doesn't know most things.
But you said space doesn't have has like 0 to no salt, and it's like so much salt in space. There's literally
If I went and took a dump in the ocean, it would not be accurate to say that the
sodium
ocean is
chloride
made of
too.
poop.
Sodium. Oh man.
Okay.
Trey, it's sodium salt.
Sodium is a element that's found inside of salt.
That is
But
So,
so is
sodium
chloride.
is not salt.
well, it's
It
what
can
we
be.
mean.
It can be.
Like, there's no literal salt in the ocean. The ions are actually separated from each other. So that's what we mean when we say salt. So I'm not gonna give him a hard time about that. So what's a sodium trail?
A sodium trail is what usually is used to determine certain comets can. I think sodium has a funny little effect when it gets into sunlight too. I think it reacts with light. Something about sodium, and they use it to determine like where certain bodies can be located in the celestial sphere.
Okay, therefore
it's like mapping the thermohaline circulation in the ocean.
no, it's not.
Oh, it's a lot like that.
In what way?
Hold on.
Okay. I'm looking up these sodium trails, and it looks like, keep in mind, Mercury is incredibly close to the sun. So it looks like Mercury can be blasted off by the intense solar radiation from the sun, which roughly mimics like a comet's tail. Okay. Perhaps, in theory, you could look for a signature of that to determine if there's a planet orbiting a star, but this isn't how we detect stars, because that's what you said. We use sodium to look for stars. That's
and
not
that
the case.
doesn't lend any credence to space being full of salt water.
Yes. Well, or that space is literally an ocean or the
an ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thermohaline mixing in evolved low-mass stars. Thermohaline mixing has recently been proposed to occur in low-mass red giants, with large consequence for the chemical yields of low-mass stars. Thermohaline instability, rotation-induced mixing, that's astroseismic parameters, different stages, different planets. What else? Not different planets, but you know what I mean. It's just one planet. THC is what it's called, by the way. THC circulation.
THC. Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Hey. See. Thermohaline convection in main sequence stars. The International Astronomical Union.
I know that stars create sodium as it's a product of fusion. I know that already. What does this have to do with
haline means specifically salt, right? Yeah. So when it comes to haline,
well,
yeah, it does
refer to different kinds of salt.
No, it refers to actually halides.
Halite types of salt.
Halite is salt. If we look up the term halite,
what is the definition of salts?
We look up what halite is. It is commonly known as rock salt, a type of salt, the mineral natural form of sodium chloride. Halite forms isometric crystals. So halite is salt, and
It's
thermohaline
one of the
means
types
salt
of salts, yeah.
circulation, which means that literally everything has salt in it
Yeah.
in space. And you said zero did.
No. What? Space is empty, because you know what you call
Right.
the gaps between objects in space? You call it space. And in space, there are so few particles that it's not inaccurate to just say that it's empty. Okay, when you say what is the composition of space, it's irrelevant. If I went to the ocean and took a poop in it, it would not be accurate to say the oceans are made of poop, right?
Mm.
And these rogue sodium atoms that are flying through space, which definitely do exist, are the
I'm going to read this
relationship
right
between
quick.
concentration of sodium in space versus that dump I took in the ocean is vastly greater.
Early civilizations believed that the ocean and the stars above were linked inextricably. In the age of exploration, the ocean represented the
I don't
ultimate
care
unknown
what
whose
bunch
guideposts
of
were the
Bronze Age
heavens.
peasants thought.
Earlier in the century, science fiction writers, our prophets of the medium, referred to the cosmos as ocean space,
Hey, Two Penny
whose
Trey,
conquest would
can I talk
inevitably
real
be
quick?
He's got
sure.
let him just
So
okay.
cool.
This,
So
I just read a
I'm shocked that everybody just skipped over the fact you denied the moon landing, but we'll get past that. All right. So an ocean, it's just a very large expanse of sea. In particular, each of the main areas, which is divided geographically, which means on our planet. If you want to get anywhere close to what you're talking about, you must move to informal definitions where it just means a very large expanse or quantity, where I can say, I have oceans of property, I have oceans of air around me, I have oceans of space above my head. That doesn't mean what you're talking about. There's nothing about space that is a sea that is divided geographically. That's not what this is. You are misusing these words, and this is very easy to show simply by the definition of these words. Now, if we want, we could talk about you being completely denying things like the moon landing. That's fun.
Nah, I don't want to talk about the moon landing. It's boring.
So when you literally are talking about like misusing definitions or kind of like moving goalposts and definitions, I'm not moving any goalposts when it comes to definitions. I will
Change
read
the
this,
subject.
and you
Trey,
can
no
listen
one
to
said
this.
that. Trey.
And here we go. The naval philosophy of space, the application of naval organizations and traditions to use of space, would
Yep.
permit full integration of efforts from sea and land into the heavens. Under this philosophy, we would think in terms of voyages rather than missions. A team-oriented concept of crew would prevail, not the
Yeah,
lone eagle
these are
approach.
these
Yada
are
yada yada.
thematic terms. You understand that, right? I was in the Navy
Thematic
for
term. Why
decades.
is so
Okay,
much thematic
so
reasoning needed?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
okay,
exactly. It's the
when
same
I say
It's the same
that,
reason
I
somebody
just
in the
read
Air
this,
Force doesn't call
and
the
now
air
let's
the
talk about
ocean,
my
right?
original points.
Hold on. Go ahead,
We
Matt.
don't use this. We don't use the same titles for our officers. We don't have the same ranks for our enlisted. We don't have the same names for the places we go because we name them thematically. We do that. All right. We do that for cohesiveness. That we can understand what we're talking about that way. If somebody talks about arid plains, we know they're not talking about the arid plains of the Pacific Ocean, right? We're talking about land masses. When we talk about vast swaths of ocean, we're talking about water. We're not talking about space. Now, we can use similar themes for different topics, such as aeronautics. Again, that nautical portion of aeronautics, it's themed. This is just verbiage. It's just the way language is used. It does not mean that space is a literal ocean.
and the quote that you're reading, Ray, was what I read earlier, where they specifically say a naval philosophy towards spacefaring and space defense would ensure that close space support would not become an orphaned mission in any battle for the outer reaches. So they say specifically they're just referring to it as an expanse.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
and
we've actually
like
moved
my
away from the
first
Navy
point,
for doing that. We have the Space
according
Force now.
to newly published research, some of the largest ocean eddies on Earth are mathematically equivalent to the mysterious black holes of space. These eddies are so tightly shielded by circular water paths that nothing can escape from the outside of these loops, not even water.
Okay, but there's a big difference. Light can escape.
No, there's no,
Yes.
no,
This
no,
water
but
little.
They're
no,
they're
no, no,
just
no, no, no,
similar
no.
by way of analogy. They don't have the
Similar
same.
by literally, no, you can't say mathematically equivalent and say that similarity. No, that's like, no,
Yeah, so I
mathematically
reject
equivalent.
the idea
Isn't
that they're
math the definer
mathematically
of everything that
equivalent.
you stand for?
Yeah, I agree that you can't say both of those things, which is why I reject the idea that they are mathematically equivalent.
Well, you can't reject that because you haven't even read the study yet.
You want to know some other things that are extremely close mathematically that are just strange? Ice cream consumption leads to murder. The correlation between ice cream consumption and murders and locations tend to be very
Well,
linear and
that's the
similar. We
fallacy
also
of
have
absurdism right there. That's just
pirate
absurdity.
shortages
That's a
causing global
fallacy.
warming.
And
It almost lines up equally. You have living in poor countries increases penis size. This is a very linear
Nice.
graph as well. Eating organic foods causes autism. This is a very linear graph as well. It's
but
extremely close. Do you understand that correlation does not equal causation?
but
Exactly.
That does not mean
correlation
they're
is
the
Correlation
not
is
same.
it,
not causation.
mathematically
You're
identical
just
is
sowing
not
two
correlation.
they're
They are
not
not
identical.
Mathematically
mathematically
identical is not
identical.
correlation.
They are not identical.
Mathematically identical.
They are
Yes, they
not
are.
Trey, they are not
identical.
mathematically
Even
identical.
if
Yeah,
you even if
they
even if they
literally
were,
look.
even
How
if
many of
they
this
were,
Daily Mail? How many is this SciTech Daily? Okay, let's
Oh,
see.
the Daily
Bond
Mail is
Rice. Let's
not
see.
a good
Daily
source.
Mail. Okay, let's see right here. Express Co. UK, Nature World News, Science World Report.
I
Black
just read.
holes in
Just hold
turbulent
on.
oceans.
I just read.
Ocean eddies are exactly like black holes. Analog discovered. Black hole analog discovered in South Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
hold on.
Atlantic Ocean
Just read
study
what you.
reveals black holes on Earth. Black holes of
yeah,
the ocean could curb climate
analog
change. Black holes
analog
found in
is the root of the word analogy.
relating to or
analog is the
using
root.
signals or information represented by a continuous variable physically quantity
So do you
such
know what?
as spatial position, voltage, etc., etc., etc. It just
No, hold on.
seems
So the
comparable.
coherent
A person a
Lagrangian
person or
vortices,
thing seen as
the black holes
comparable
of
to another.
turbulence.
Yeah, hold on, Trey. I just read. This is what it says from what is it? Science Daily, one of the ones you just named. Haller and Baron Vera discovered similar closed barriers around select ocean eddies. In these barriers, fluid particles move around in closed loops, similar to the path of light in a photon sphere, as in a black hole. Nothing can escape from the inside of these loops, not even water. They're using it as an analogy. They're
Mm-hmm.
talking about how the
Okay,
orbits around
so
similar.
is
It's just
mathematically
an analogy.
identical an analogy?
They just said it's an
Trey,
analogy.
the
They're
Just
only
because
equate
they, but is it
Trey,
mathematically
stop.
equivalent to black holes or
Yes,
not?
There
It
are
is.
mathematically
Okay.
equivalent
So
can
you're
be an
saying that
analogy. Yes,
math is an analogy, right? So your
it
math
can
is
be.
just a
no.
like or as. It's a simile. So your math is a simile. You can't say that your math just because it says that an eddy. That means that the incoherent acceleration of electrostatic motion is the actual cause of gravity, and gravity is just the bending of light.
no, it isn't. We would
I have
have a
no idea what
vastly
that
different
means.
So
acceleration.
the coherent electrostatic acceleration towards the Gaussian surface, the
I'm going to do it. There, I just did it. Okay,
Thank you.
so
Holy
there are
shit.
specific mathematical equations that describe the properties of black holes, and I guarantee you cannot use those equations to represent what these water eddy currents do. Okay, if I have an oval and if I take a basketball and some other roundish object, an oval shaped object or whatever, I could say they both have the same mathematical properties of roundness, but they wouldn't literally be the same thing. And the math that there wouldn't be one equation that describes the both of them, right? So that's the main point I want to make. It's an analogy.
so just what you said, they literally used mathematics that were used to find black holes and found an eddy in the Gulf of Mexico. So just after the publication of Holler's and Baron-Vera's results, Josefina
You can't use
Olaskoga,
math
also a
to
professor of
find
oceanography
an
in Miami,
eddy. What does
tested
that
their new
even
mathematical
mean?
method. She unexpectedly found a large black hole type eddy in the Gulf of Mexico. Olaskoga now uses her finding to assess the coherent transport of contamination from a possible future oil spill.
All right, so Trey, this is really simple. You're talking about, is math an analogy? No, math is just math. Can math be
So we're going to
used?
just ignore what I
Hey,
just
hey,
said?
hey, hey,
Yes.
just listen. Just listen. Can math be used to show analogies? Yes. If I want to make a math equation talking about how I have a bowl full of 2 apples and then I ate those 2 apples and now how many apples do I have? That's
Oh, you
very
left.
simple. I can make that equation. Now let's talk about, I am removing objects from a room. I have 2 objects in the room. I remove both objects from the room. Now how many objects are left in the room? It's the same exact equation, two completely different topics.
He's gone.
This can be done.
Yeah, you left.
Yes, you can have analogies in math.
I invited
He rage
Blitz.
quit.
I needed him here so bad, but he just left on his own.
Yeah, I mean, I read exactly what he's talking about. They're saying the fluidic photon spheres are, oh gosh, mathematically equivalent. They're talking about how the orbit and something coming within this, like this fluid vortex, are pretty much the same. They are using it as an analogy. Literally, the paper is called Coherent Lagrangian Vortices, the black holes of turbulence.
I think he fell into an eddy.
Could have. He very well could have.
Oops.